Hello, hello, everyone. This is Nwebb coming at you on behalf of WHRB, Harvard University's very own radio broadcasting station. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing and chatting with Sweet Trip, super awesome IDM, dream pop, and shoegazy kind of group consisting of Robbie Burgos and Valerie. So thank you both for taking the time to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. So I guess to get the ball rolling, Sweet Chip has been around since about 1995, but today in 2021, you guys are making a huge, exciting comeback after a 12-year gap. How does it feel to be back, first of all?
It feels exciting. I think for me, the number one exciting thing about being back and making music is just like being able to hang out with this person here, and record and just be ourselves again, and sort of in the I guess the creative bubble of the music that we do. But it's also like we're really good friends.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's nice to like just be able to bond again, and that's really awesome. And I think I don't know. At least I feel that good music came out of that.
Yeah, it's exciting for me too. Kind of shocking or surprising too, because I didn't realize we had any fans, and then just over the last couple years, it just grew and grew. So
No, yeah, there's definitely,
thankful and blessed.
yeah, it definitely started as a really like obscure, small, like cult following, but it's definitely growing really exponentially, thankfully. So I guess to start off with some general questions, normally you two would be recording at Darlow Records or in some studio, I assume. So how has the shift in recording or studio environment like affected you both personally, and how does that translate into changes in the music?
I think that well, we've always been I think we've always been a DIY kind of band. We always record in the bedroom or the closet or the bathroom, the living room, whatever, the shed. So that um, that aspect of our work hasn't changed. We just
Mm-hmm.
do that. It feels more comfortable. I think it's also more intimate, and it caters very well to our personalities because we're both very introverts, and we're very self-conscious of what we do or what we don't do, and it's nice to be able to just like record music and make music together, just ourselves, because there are no like prying eyes, there's no judgment. We just feel free, and we bounce ideas off of each other, and it works out really well. And that hasn't really changed. If anything, I think that the way that we work sort of blended really well, especially with this last record and working under COVID, because we can't really rent studios or just like drive out and I don't know, try to get any kind of like music service, just because of caution and COVID and all that stuff. So we,
Mm-hmm.
it works really well for us to be able to just do it ourselves in our own space, in our own time, and with our own, with our personalities just blending well together to make that work.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that that's been going really well. Has there been like any maybe negative effects of the pandemic that has affected you like as a duo or musically?
Well, in January of 2020, we played one show,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were kind of hoping we could continue, but that part, as far as playing for people live, then that's so
Over now, yeah, unfortunately.
that would be the only thing for me that was a shame.
Yeah, Valerie's sister is also a DJ with her husband.
Awesome.
they do they have a DJ team called Diatron Industries, and right before the pandemic hit, we were trying to get a spot. Yeah.
Yeah, they're organizers for Underground on Haight Street, and the sound system there is cool, and people they draw like a cool crowd. So we were excited to play there, and then our hopes got dashed.
Oh, so when things are back to normal, do you guys expect to be doing live shows often, or as often as you can?
I would like to. That would be fun for me. I mean, it's cool. You feel you meet the people, and then I really enjoyed playing live. We did play live back in the day, but yeah, I'd love to do that. Meet you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely someday.
Absolutely.
So I guess maybe going back to the topic of like the 12-year gap, how easy was it to regain momentum after 12 years? And also, has there been any like huge like changes in your relationship with each other that has like influenced the upcoming release?
I think it was really easy for us to get back in the groove. It just felt natural. I don't know if you agree, but
yeah,
I think
even though we hadn't really talked in years or worked together, because we've known each other since we were like kids, basically. Just felt like when we reconnected, it was like, oh, Robbie, and it was easy. It was just natural. So
yeah, absolutely. It was just like there was no effort to be made other than maybe just like the effort of like getting back together. But after that, it was just like, you know, we do have a strong bond and a strong friendship, and I think that in itself is it's a huge inspiration.
And working on this record, just us two, it even made us closer. So
yeah, for sure. I can imagine.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. So during the hiatus, did you two kind of continue to do music independently, or did you like explore other like creative outlets of any sort?
Yeah, I mean, just nothing serious, like nothing for release or anything. So I guess I maintained like my own thing, and Robbie, he did too. Robbie did like Black Tunic music. That's his other alias. So
yeah, I've seen that. Robbie's also been like
accounts.
Yeah, I've seen that Robbie's also been doing shows on Twitch for like drum and bass and jungle type music, so that's been cool.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, how about you, Robbie? Any other news?
I guess just to expand on what Valerie said, I tried. I've been working a lot of like little snippets of things, just to try to get some kind of creative flow going, and at some time maybe 5 years ago, like somehow I got together a bunch of tracks and I put it out as that Black Tunic EP. It was just I just did it for fun, really, and also because I've never published anything on Bandcamp, so I just wanted to it was kind of like a test anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and other than that, I've been like playing guitar for friend's band, and that has been it, really.
Awesome, cool. So I guess another question. How would you say that the individual members influenced the band sound, even like dating back to Halica?
Oh wow, that's okay. Well, I will say that this. Oh wow, this is a good question. Kind of like, let's say, so we started. It was me, Valerie, and our bandmate Viet.
Yeah.
And I think that Viet, I think Viet, when we all started, we all sort of like bonded over the same music the same type of music that we were listening to, same bands and all that stuff. And Valerie was always very instrumental in like showing me and Viet like newer bands that we were not exposed to. And so like Valerie's like record collection and music knowledge of like all this cool underground stuff like was a huge influence on us. We were like, well, every time Valerie would like bring a CD, we were like, oh, who's that? Oh my God, this is awesome. We just try to find it, and we couldn't find it. Then we'll get a copy from her or something. So Valerie was highly influential. Valerie was highly influential in like showing us more influences to enhance our music. I think Viet, his contribution to the music was more of like a spiritual leader in a way. He guided us a lot through a lot of like musical decisions. He put us on the right path. He was very vocal about what worked and what didn't work, and we would his advice, and we try to like.
He's more a business-minded person.
I see.
How to promote and kind of whip us into shape as far as being more professional when we would play, or he was our main contact person with bookings and networking. Because Robbie and I are more shy, whereas Viet is more confident and articulate. So he basically moved us forward from just being a local band playing at parties to more like a serious musical entity. Yeah. And he was the one who started contacting labels, and so that's how eventually the result was we got discovered by a label. Thanks to
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know any about that about Viet. That's great.
Yeah.
And I would say that as far as the other guys, Aaron Porter, we met Aaron later when Viet decided to. Well, Viet was when we finally decided to be Sweet Trip. He was the one who was playing the bass, but then later on, he just kind of like wanted to just do more of the
managing the band.
Right, exactly. And so we met Aaron Porter, who was playing for a local band in the city. And then he really liked our stuff, and he said, "I want to play bass for you." And so that was that. And he actually played the tablas on Velocity Design Conquer.
Oh, really?
It was really cool. And then later on, we also played with Rob Witinko, and we've known Rob for quite a long time, possibly around the same time that we met.
Rob was in other bands, but we needed a drummer, especially for shows. So that's how we asked him to play, because Viet was actually also our drummer. So when we started out, but then we used drum machines when we did Sweet Trip. Viet switched over to bass. But yeah, that was how we all sort of met and who did what. So.
Yeah, makes sense. So I guess staying in like the old like early 2000s Sweet Trip era, I take it from like the Cinemic interview that VDC placed Sweet Trip in a really unique and outside light, and it kind of casted you guys apart from other bands in SF at the time. So how did the band like deal with this like perceived exclusion, and like when did it stop feeling like exclusion?
Well, when we were trying to get shows booked, it's true, we feel like we had to try harder just to get included within these indie pop shows, because our sound didn't really fit in so well with the indie pop crowd, but it didn't fit in exactly with the DJing, like drum and bass electronic crowd either. So yeah, we would just sort of bounce around between the two cultures. But the one thing I noticed was it's very clicky, like the mod scene, indie pop, Brit pop. That was really what was very popular in the 90s. So whenever we would play, we would always get like the worst time slot, which is like the beginning. And so there's hardly anyone at the club yet. So then we would do our set. But again, we didn't get prime time for that reason because we didn't have a whole lot of people attending because they were more into the like Brit pop sound, like or shoegaze, but really shoegaze. So that was like to me how it felt. And only now, years later, we feel like we fit in because I guess the audience is more open to like the mix of
Yeah,
race.
after everything's back to normal, the shows are gonna go crazy, I assure you.
I hope so. I don't know. That's encouraging.
Yeah, I really hope to be able to attend one because I've actually like never been to a concert, surprisingly enough. Definitely if there's one with y'all, definitely gonna attend.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you.
So I guess first, not first, but now I want to highlight maybe your personal origins in music. So from my understanding, Robbie, you kind of started off with like metal and heavy rock, and Valley started off with like bossa nova type music, I think. So what kind of other genres did you start from like personally, and which do you like deem the most important?
Well, actually, playing wise, my parents basically introduced me to different styles of music. They love bossa nova, which is why I mentioned it. But when I started playing guitar, what really influenced me was well, the classical guitar started out that way and just the melodies, and then it was actually shoegaze that influenced me to get an electric guitar and to start, buying a collection of pedals or effects processors. So, and it wasn't my Bloody Valentine that influenced me to explore sound as music, but more like this other shoegaze band called Moose. They're so underrated, but they were actually the ones that influenced me to buy like a phaser or those effects.
Yeah, like reverb and stuff like that.
Flanger.
Yeah.
So then yeah, I was influenced by the post-punk music and shoegaze.
Awesome.
Yeah, slow dive too, very influential.
Yeah, I think Robbie, I think you mentioned in the Cinemic interview that you really are a big fan of slow dive as well.
Yeah, I am a big fan of slow dive. It's funny how I came across slow dive. It's sort of like kind of like how our history is kind of like so weirdly intertwined. But I used to go to so in high school there was a other classmate that had a class like right before me on the same in the same room, and for some reason, and then strangely enough, we also sat on the same desk, except that she will sit on the desk the period before mine.
Yeah,
and she was also someone that I thought that I was curious about because she looked really goth and kind of like cool, and she was like her and some other girl in my high school were like the goth girls.
Yeah.
And no one like them. And I was like curious, right? Because it's like, high school kid.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. Don't worry.
Like, yeah, interesting characters. Like, why not? And then I found out that she was carving the names of all these bands on the desk. So she had like Jesus and Mary Chain.
Whoa, that's sick.
She had My Bloody Valentine. She had like a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, and from all those bands, I already knew who My Bloody Valentine was. And so like I kind of like associated I immediately thought like, okay, all these other bands that she's carving on this desk, they must be kind of like my Bloody Melon. So I'm just getting into this. So I'm just gonna like find out who Slow Dive is, and I did, and I bought the CD at Tower Records after school, and that was it.
That's a really interesting way to discover music. That's awesome. Do both of you still keep up with like collecting like physical copies of music?
Yeah, right now I collect mainly like vinyl of electronic music or more sort of for dance.
Mm-hmm. How about
Yeah.
you, Rob?
Not a whole lot. Only when there's like something that like a reissue of something that's endearing to me, or or I might go out and try to find a record that means something to me, and I just want to have like the big physical vinyl, just to have a big physical vinyl record with me. So that's about it. Otherwise, I don't really collect that much.
Yeah, gotcha. So I guess straying away from like early influences, are there any like modern influences that affect both of you? It doesn't even have to be like musically, like maybe personally, any like current influences?
Yeah, television. Yeah, TV influences. Like there's a TV series called Full Dark, which came out a couple years ago, and kind of influenced me to enjoy sort of like music from that period, like from the 1500s, 1600s. So yeah, which is interesting because Robbie too, he mentioned like being into a lot of medieval kind of sounding music and melodies. So, but yeah,
That's
medieval music's kind of cool. Like what I'm like listening to also lately.
Yeah, there's I was actually thinking about, because we actually were talking about the medieval stuff, and we're both raised Catholic, so we have a really strong Catholic background, and so we know how like mass hymns and things like that, and I think that those mass hymns are like I guess like the construct of a mass hymn sort of like bleeds into some of the music that we do. And I was actually remembering the conversation that we were having a couple of days ago, because I was watching a YouTube a documentary on YouTube about Alice in Chains, and it was really interesting. And while I was watching it, I was remembering an article that I read about Alice in Chains, that the way that the two singers worked their melodies was really based on Catholic hymns and pentatonic scales, and sort of like doing this like modulation of harmonies in their songs. And I remember being a kid and reading that interview and being like, oh wow, that's really cool. I do know Catholic hymns. I kind of feel like I know how they work. So that has been an influence on the music in some way or another.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really neat to hear. I think it was mentioned in another interview that like there's like some medieval aspect to the new record. Is that true? Like besides like the whole like love theme?
Not necessarily a theme. I think it's more like there are passages in some of the songs that was resembles that, but there's no actual like medieval song.
Yeah. That'd be odd, but I'd still enjoy it probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, maybe someday. Give it a shot. So I guess now turning around to the new record, A Tiny House and Secret Speeches, Polar Equals. Do you think this new record is, if at all, reflective of your time apart, or will it mostly be like grounded in the present, like you've mentioned your other works to be?
it is it is grounded in the present. Every record, every collection of songs that we work on, it's always for the most part is a product of the time. And I think that you know whatever is like happening with us, or you know, our connection, or our whatever, it just sort of like embodies the moment. It embodies the last year or so that it took us to work on that. So it's very much based in the present. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to get me one of those. My back is itching just watching.
There you go.
Sorry, ignore my. Oh my gosh.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so I guess in an interview I saw recently, Valley kind of explained that the new record is like mostly about like love and fantasy, and maybe like a perfect world where everything in these realms exist. Will these ideals be like explored, would you say, instrumentally, lyrically, or like is there a balance between the two?
Lyrically, yeah, you could tell that they're romantic songs, and even the sound is sort of like very sort of melodic, and not very harsh or edgy. I
Mhm.
mean, I can't really say a whole lot about the record, but
Yeah, of course.
fair enough. But no, I mean, they are the lyrics. You could really tell that they are singing about love.
Yeah, and I think that I guess the other thing that we could probably add is that you know, I think that every note, every passage, every little sound has a meaning, or it's supposed to, or at least for us, it's supposed to convey or enhance the lyrics of the song. And everything is done on purpose with those qualities in mind. We
Yeah,
try.
makes sense. Yeah, I can't wait to see how it turns out. So a quick question that I have is, I think Robbie, you made a post yesterday of Valley riding a bike, right? And there was like music. There is music playing. Is that music like from the album, and is it like reflective of the album as a whole, or like why did you choose to play that?
Um, it's just a sound. It's a sound bite of it's really just a sound bite. It doesn't it's not supposed to represent anything.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
just wanted to get that cleared up. Awesome.
Mhm.
So I guess moving on, it's been mentioned how you generally agree that You'll Never Know Why is like a pretty sad record throughout. And it's also been mentioned, like we just talked about, how Tiny House is primarily about love. Is this going to be the case for like all the songs, or will there be some exceptions, if you're allowed to say?
No, I don't think there are any exceptions. I think it's just like full on.
Full on romantic. Awesome. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. So I guess continuing with that, where would you like place the album among the rest? Would you say it's leaning towards You'll Never Know Why in terms of like how conventional it is, or is it leaning towards like experimental and abstract aspects musically?
Well, we got asked that before, and I remember saying that it was actually a little bit of everything that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, there's a little bit of You Will Never Know Why, and Halica, and yeah, Allura even.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it falls like right, probably falls right on the center.
In the center. Awesome. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a culmination of it all, you would say.
In a way, yeah.
Cool.
But still, uh, it's still its own thing. It's still its own voice, and it still has its own role.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. So since you really welcome like personal interpretation of your work, like you know how people would think that like VDC was about like a human and an AI, or like utopian concepts that didn't like exactly turn out to be true, what kind of interpretations would you expect from like the new record? And do you think they'll differ a lot from your own interpretations?
Uh, I don't know. I'm curious to see what people would say. I don't have I personally don't have a concrete idea of like of whether there's a bigger than life theme to the record at all. I think that my only hope is that people hear it and it touches them emotionally, and I hope that it relates to people. And that's really like the most that I can hope for. And as far as like trying to decipher what the record is or what it's supposed to mean or not, that's not up to me to dictate. That's
Yeah,
up to
for
you
sure.
guys to like, you make it your own. But at the very least, I just hope that people see that a lot of time, effort, passion, soul, and love was put into it, and it's just up to the transcript. That's really it.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of fans will receive it really well, especially after so long. So next question. I read on one of Robbie's like Reddit replies that You'll Never Know Why was kind of like a conscious effort to not be all over the place. I think, how would you describe the conscious efforts that went into the new album?
Like it is like a love letter, so we did try not to be as vague as the previous record, because like we used to have very cryptic lyrics and such.
Yeah.
But with these songs, when you listen, you could tell somebody's singing about love. So yeah, I forgot what the question.
No, it's all good. So I guess
Yes.
I have a follow-up that just came to mind right now. Do you think the artwork will also be like less cryptic? Because I know a lot of people like misinterpreted the artwork to You'll Never Know Why. So will this one be like more specific, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so we're still in the works on that. So we can't really
Mhm.
we can't really say.
Yeah.
Not just because we don't want to put too many expectations out there yet, but also because it's still sort of like in the early stages of that. We're pushing to get that done as soon as possible. So like we're still bouncing ideas out to see what actually works and doesn't work. So it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah, I completely understand. No worries. So did the album like take as long as you expected it to make, or did it take more time? And like what played into like the time it took besides like the obvious factor of the pandemic?
Well, the album took what, like just a little over a year. So yeah, I would say it was pretty quick
Yeah.
compared to, and again, the pandemic really didn't um affect us that much. And yeah, it felt like the same recording procedures. So only thing about only thing that maybe affected or delayed the process is the vinyl or like factors outside of us, like mastering or final production or limited materials to create the actual vinyl, like a vinyl plant burning down, things like that.
Yeah. Are we allowed to know if like the album's still on track to be released in late spring?
We hope so. We'll see.
Okay, awesome. Do we kind of expect this to be the last of Sweet Trip, or is there more planned afterwards, or do you hope to make more? I guess I should say.
I hope to make.
Yeah, I hope to make more.
Cool. So I guess getting more technical, what kind of new gear or equipment have you been playing around with lately?
What?
I don't know why I feel all like giggly.
No, it's all good.
Try not
No,
to laugh.
Scratch your face.
no worries. You're welcome to laugh all the time.
Scratch my eyes out.
Don't scratch your sorry, what was your question again?
It was
Sorry.
no, it's all good, no worries. It was about like new gear or equipment that you two have been playing around with lately, and if that will be featured in the new album, if any.
Just just a bunch of plugins. Yeah, just every year, like I try to look into new plugins to see what's cool, what's awesome, and what's not. So there's a lot of new like plugin tools and things like that that we use for this record that wasn't available back in the days.
Yeah.
But I also relied on a lot of older plugins that took a while to get to work because those plugins are like 20 years old. But I don't know, as far as
Robbie did buy a new guitar.
oh yeah,
Oh,
I bought a new
awesome.
guitar.
What model?
Sorry?
What model is it?
Oh, it's a Fender Strat.
Awesome.
It came to me late, but I realized that at the end of the day, I'm really more of a Strat guitar person.
Yeah, I remember hearing that you like traded a Jazz Master back then, and like you kind of regretted that, I think. But
I do.
it's
Yeah, I do
still-
regret. Still do.
Yeah, but Stratocasters are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that used on the new album, or is it just like a very recent buy?
It was used on a few pieces, but at the time that I got it, the whole bulk, at least like the bulk of guitars were recorded already.
Okay, cool. So next question, do you two share like very similar songwriting processes, and can you like elaborate on how like your songwriting process has changed over the years?
I think it's similar because like for me, I don't really have a process because it depends if I hear a sound, then I write a song based on sound first. Or if I feel like writing some lyrics, then I'll write that first. But I think Robbie's the same. And then you have multiple things going on unfinished at the same time. So yeah. I think that's why when we work together, it's not like, hey, finish this one first, or like, what happened to that song? We haven't finished that. It's more like, okay, next week we'll next, or it's not like one of us is rushing the other to like complete one song first and then move on to the next, or because it works the same way, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's funny because if you think like thinking about it, we're kind of like disorganized about how we write and record songs. We'll, like Valerie said, we'll start something and it'll just like be unfinished and start something else.
Very free form.
Yeah, it'll be this whole back and forth between trying to finish tracks and like Valerie said, like anything can inspire us to write something like a sound, a drum beat, a bass line, lyrics, humming a melody. Yeah.
Like when we were recording some of these songs, we've had to change some of them. Like we would have something planned, and then while we were recording it, we had to change it, like certain melodies, because just things like that, where you could change your mind and actually that doesn't sound so good, or it sounds like a few vocals that I was gonna do. Then I had to like, well, I don't know, do we really want to do it that way? Because it sounds a little bit
Yeah.
too much, or so. Yeah, we don't write things on sheet music.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a lot of musicians out there that actually, you know, write it out on just, you know, like what measure, treble clef, and all the notes. We don't do it that way.
We don't
Yeah.
even map anything.
Yeah.
Not even a piece of paper.
Well, yeah, it seems really cool. I feel like if I were to make music, that's how I'd approach it.
Yeah, it's easier that way, because then if you have to practice for a show, then you just read the notes and you know what. we don't do it that way. We do it after the fact that they've already been recorded, and you go back and then try to figure out what those time measure is in the notes. And
Yeah, I think it's cool though, because it allows for like a lot of creative expression, which is cool. And I definitely see that in a lot of your work. Yeah.
Cool.
So how has your outlook on like finished album changed over the years? Like right after you finish an album, is there like a lot you want to change? And like maybe do you have like a perfectionist attitude towards it? And like how has that changed over time?
It's a mixture of there's always a mixture of perfectionism, being a perfectionist, being a perfectionist, perfectionism. Thank you. And
I drove crazy with this one sound or one of the songs. You don't hear that? Like there was a drum, like a beat that came on like kind of awkward, and then that was me being ultimately like obsessively perfectionist.
And was that changed as a result of that?
Yeah,
or?
like he fixed it, but
Yeah.
I was like, you don't hear it, and he like over and over, different headphones, different audio equipment. Like, I can't believe you don't hear that. It sounds really off. Like, so yeah, there was an obsessive perfectionism in some of the songs, but not all.
Yeah, I think it just kind of like it really depends on what we're working on. Like that example that Valerie's talking about, it was a really obvious like mess up in the song.
Mm-hmm.
And so like at that point we I think that maybe not we didn't talk about it like explicitly, but I think that the balance that the normal balance of like trying to get something right and then just like going with the flow and embrace errors and mistake kind of came into play. So Valerie was like, this thing is just like it's so loud, and I'm like, I don't hear it, but I wonder if it's just we can just like leave it. And Valerie was like, no, this is like really loud.
You should definitely like release like a clip of that after like the album comes out. I think it'd be really cool to see.
Oh no, I don't think so. I actually like in the end we found the problem, and I think that on a technical level, I think that problem would have caused errors in like possible mastering and possible
I see.
final pressing. So it was an error that needed to be fixed for sure.
Okay, got you.
But yeah, there is this balance where like we try to get the song to sound as good as we can, but at some point we just realized that we just can't push it any further. The emotions and the feelings and everything that's so abstract and what we perceive as good about the song is already there, and there's no point in like pushing any further, trying to rearrange any further, because you kind of get in you gotta like go down a rabbit hole, never come out if you don't at some point say like at some point you don't say like this feels good, that's it.
Yeah. So I guess into deciding like when it's done, is it mostly just the input of you two, or do you ever ask like maybe friends or previous members for input on like certain tracks?
my number one input is this person right here.
For this one, like it was just me and him. So like, okay, I feel it's done, or it's stuck something, or yeah. Before when we started out, Viet was the most critical. So he used to be the one that was like, this sounds like crap. So he would be like super strict.
I see.
But no, we just kind of bounced off between 1 and 2, 2 and
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like, you know, if it doesn't feel right for any of us, then it's just not right. It has to feel right for both of us in order to be able to then maybe share with some friends. And I've been able to do that with some friends, and so far the feedback has been cool. So
yeah, Robbie even told me he shared with Viet, and really he said it was good. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Viet said it was good. It has to be good.
Like,
fearful.
Like he's not in a band, but he's still an authority.
That's funny.
I'll tell him later. I have more. Sorry.
No, it's all good. No worries. This is really fun. So do you two like hope to remain like as a duo, like continuing your works from here on out, or would you ever be like open to the idea of allowing other members in?
Probably for shows we thought of for live shows maybe we might need someone to play. Just so it's more exciting, you know, if you have live sounds or but recording or as far as like recording the music, for most of the records it was really just the two of us. So but as far as collaborating for Sweet Trip, I don't know. I mean, I'm not as open-minded maybe as Robbie. I don't know, because I feel like I don't really see that, but it depends on Robbie.
Depends on me. Well, I guess I can tell you that. No, like Valerie said, I think that once we are able to play shows, and if we have that opportunity, it will just be a matter of getting musicians, hopefully good people, friends, to kind of like put together a band to play shows with. But as far as recording, I mean, with the exception of a few with a few tracks, Aaron Porter playing tablas on Sept in VDC, and Rob playing drums on Darkness and Forever in You Will Never Know Why. Aside from that, and those were like special cases, because the one, I don't play tabla, and number two, I really love how Rob played those songs before we started recording them. But other than that, I think that I've always considered Sweet Trip to be a pretty intimate kind of thing that we do together, that we share together, and it's just, I don't know. It's not like I'm trying to be exclusive or, but I just don't see myself like working with anybody else in this level of, like, I don't know, relationship that we have.
Does that also include like other artists or other groups in the scene?
Sorry?
Does that also include like other bands or other artists in the scene besides like previous members?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm open to collaborating with people. I can't speak for Valerie, but
I collaborate. I'm collaborating Yob Kiss. He's an electronic musician, and
Sweet.
but it's not under Sweet Trip. I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
what I'm saying when I didn't want to collaborate under Sweet Trip, I would love to collaborate maybe as another
Yeah, independently, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
different.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there maybe any favorite pieces of gear that like you used in the new album, or is there like maybe any new favorite pieces of gear or instruments that you learned in like creating the new album?
Hmm.
Or like have
Yeah,
like
we
the
didn't really,
preferences stayed the
if
same?
anything, we kind of downsized gear-wise for this album, and so we used what we have already. Except, yeah, like I said, I know Robbie bought another guitar, which was replaced for some other songs. Like there were some songs that Robbie already recorded with this other guitar, and then he redid it because the new guitar was more full sounding, or yeah, like, but yeah, equipment wise, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think
just
that
mostly
I think
Ableton and the plugin.
yeah, and even though even though everything we do it's in software, it's actually like the origins of every song are always really very simple, and it's just from there it's just a matter of like manipulating things in ways that we like. But the origin of a lot of the songs, or most of the songs, are really simple, just like really simple synthesizers or really simple guitar tones, and then we just go from there and see what works and what doesn't. So nothing really stands out as like anything new that I could like talk about and rave about, because it's for us, it's not like the instrument, but just the process and the journey, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Anything, maybe if we do the live shows, that's when we'll start to think about gear.
Yeah.
We don't have any right now. Well, we do, but
So
for gear, we'd like to get better gear
yeah,
for live shows.
right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I hope we're able to see that someday. So I guess like maybe some like random question that I had. I was always interested in how you went about, or how you guys go about like naming songs that are like mostly like lyricless, that are mostly like instrumental.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. I think that a lot of those titles are just really random, and a lot of times they have meanings. A lot of times they really don't. They just sound good. To be honest, not everything needs to have meaning.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and it's a lot of those tracks are also like made of words.
We didn't have a title yet, and we just referred to it as like you or a song name, and then it just sticks. So
It
it's
just like yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of simple, like Rocky said. Just simple people.
Like we have,
there's still really good titles though. Yeah.
There's a song that Valerie reminded me of recently, or maybe last year, and the title, like nobody remembers the title. It's just known as like the one that sounds like Suede or something. I'm like, okay.
That's cool to hear. So I guess still on the topic of names, how did like the name Sweet Trip come about? And was there like ever any like alternative options, or like if you guys had to change your name, like maybe what would it be to?
So Sweet Trip is it's like a rough translation of a slang word for LSD in Panama, where I came from.
Yeah.
Where from. The actual, like the literal translation is the tasty trip, and as that never sounded good to
Yeah.
me. So I just like I replaced tasty with sweet.
Sweet.
And for the longest time. And so when me, Valerie, and Viet started, we were called Ophelia Satellite.
Well, yeah, we didn't really have a band name,
I
but
didn't know that.
people we were playing with all named themselves after some galaxy or astronomy
Oh, really?
name. So
That's sick.
yeah, there was a band we used to play with called Galileo Space Tribute,
Wow.
and then
And there was another band called Jupiter Sun, which
Yeah.
Rob Utico used to play with. That's how we met
yeah.
him.
Oh,
So
wow.
then, in order to play gigs with them, we just sort of like, oh, let's just call ourselves Ophelia Satellite. That way, so then we just called ourselves Ophelia Satellite because we would play with the same
Yeah, with the same
bands
kind of
who
people.
had connections.
Yeah.
So
I get
that
that.
was really, but it didn't really resonate with us so much, especially with our sound. So yeah,
Mhm.
between Robbie and Viet, they came up with Sweet Trip. And it used to be even Robbie had it as the Sweet Trip,
Yeah.
but Viet said drop the.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a good decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. The only thing about I wouldn't change the name of the band, but the only thing that I find kind of funny and kind of cool at the same time is that if you were to look if you were to do a search for Sweet Trip on YouTube, for example,
Yeah.
you might find you'll find some of our music and some videos about us and things like that. And then
Mhm.
you have like videos of like people going to dessert shops in Thailand or like Amsterdam or Spain or South Africa, and they're all like, our sweet trip to the
Yeah.
bakery in some
Yeah.
town and so delicious.
That's the only thing, kind of get.
Yeah.
But also there is a Japanese band also called Sweet Trip.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
they're called the sweet.
Or Sweet
Oh,
Trip.
okay.
That's not
The makes all the difference.
That makes all.
So I guess moving on, an interesting question is maybe to a stranger, like someone that's never heard your music before, how would you describe your sound to them?
No.
I always have a hard time because the records, they're all not all the same.
Yeah.
For instance, Halica, my auntie, she's like, oh, I didn't know you made new age music. Is this new age? So yeah, it's new age. Even if I try to explain, she wouldn't know. So, oh yeah, okay, sure. But then when we go to the record stores, the music would be classified, or in the bins you would see it like under experimental a lot.
Mhm.
Or even techno.
Yeah, I've seen it
Yeah.
in experimental, techno, IDM.
Yeah, it kind of fits in
I
a lot
did
of
find
genres.
it in
It's cool.
shoegaze though, and then maybe pop or indie pop,
Mhm.
but I don't see it anywhere. Most of the time that I try to find Sweet Trip, it's put under experimental.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel that.
So that's what I tell people. But Robbie would say, for You Will Never Know Why, that it's really ultimately a pop record. And not really say it's shoegaze, but it's just a pop record.
Yeah, I don't know what you did to shoot record.
There's elements of it, but it's not really shoegaze to me.
Yeah. So like Valerie said, it's really hard to say. I mean, absolutely on a kind of like a marketing kind of way. We do embrace shoegaze. We're heavily influenced by shoegaze, so why
Yeah.
not?
There's a couple songs in there that feels very shoegaze.
Yeah.
But yeah, when people ask you what kind of music do you play, say, oh, it's kind of experimental pop music. So
Yeah.
then that's it.
I mean, for
Yeah.
me, like in a perfect world, or like, well, maybe not a perfect world, but in another reality, if I could just say like we make pop music, I will be, and people would accept that, and then that would be like ideal for me because I don't know.
Oh, say hi, Space Heater. You're on camera.
He's gonna be famous.
You're getting out of it?
I turned it.
I'm okay. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Call it what you want.
Yeah, call it what you like. We know that it falls under shoegaze really well.
Mhm.
It falls under pop really well, or at least okay. And we know that it has elements of electronic music that
Mhm.
maybe some people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really hard. If I could just get away with saying we're a pop band, then
Yeah, it's not worth the trouble, I guess. So I guess moving on, what incited like the new artwork on the reissue for You'll Never Know Why, and what do you hope people like take away from it, and like how it relates to the old artwork?
Okay.
this is your
It's
fault.
my fault. I changed the blade.
It's not her fault. It's not her.
Well, I realize people are getting tattoos of the blade now, and it's
Mhm.
not people like it. And I'm so sorry, guys, because I was the one who said to change it. Boom!
No,
I'm so
but
sorry.
not. No.
But no, it's because we were getting asked if we condone suicide and slitting your wrists with a blade, or why are the songs so sad, and what does You Will Never Know Why mean? Does it mean you're dead, wanna die kind of thing? And I'm like, oh no, that's not what I'm trying.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt like, ooh, we're getting more and more of these, so
Yeah.
I
So
just
it's,
don't want people to get the wrong idea.
yeah.
So
So it's mostly to like clear it up, you would say?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the new art it was kind of hard to figure out what to do because at the same time we didn't want to just remove the blade altogether. So yeah, we just sort of collaborated with Paul Borchers, who's basically Yob Kiss, the artist, and he's also a very talented and famous illustrator. So he is like a friend of ours who we met through my sister, who's a DJ, because he's also a DJ. And so he just sort of like really talked about ideas and came up with a story which can tie things together. Like the characters basically all have something to do with the songs. That You Will Never Know Why. And then just kind of came up with a simple story or comic to sort of tie the old artwork with the new. And it's like a fulfillment of the old into the new artwork, in the new art.
And at the same time, giving it
a more positive
more
message instead of hopeless, pessimist kind of.
Yeah, I can see why that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you read the comic on the artwork, you'll see there's a happy ending.
Yeah, because I think I think the comic and the artwork ties up with the journey of the record itself. At least with the original tracks. Because it is a dark and bleak and sad record from beginning to all the way to where you get to like a song like Pretending and into Your World is Eternally Complete. Everything before that is just like heavy hearted, really sad and big and pessimistic and all this stuff. But at the end of the original songs, there is some light at the end of all that. There is hope. There's you can there is hope. After all that sadness, there is.
Eternally Complete is very optimistic or hopeful.
Yeah, and I think that whole journey of the song reflects on the comic book that's on the
CD.
reissue.
Yeah. And we dared change the R because we thought, yeah, you know, books get reissues all the time and the artwork always seems to change. So why not with music too?
Yeah, that's true. Like,
so it's okay. Look at all these books.
That's
all
right.
the different art.
That's right.
Edition that changes.
Totally.
Yes. Oh, that'd be fun.
Totally.
What? I don't know how to do it.
What do you do?
Like,
So I guess another question that kind of came up earlier when I think Robbie, you mentioned Bandcamp. I wanted to ask how you feel about like streaming services and if there's like any preference or if you like Spotify over like other stuff or if you're planning to like change.
I don't use Spotify. I'm currently using YouTube Music. And the reason why I chose that as a streaming service is because I feel that YouTube is just inherently a wealth of good music. And you can find a more diverse and wide catalog of sounds and styles than you can from any other streaming service there is, you know.
Yeah.
Because you're you know, if you know how to, you're allowed to like post a really rare record that no one has heard of.
True.
And you're not gonna find that on Spotify or any Apple Music or anything like that. So, and with that in mind, I think that streaming services are, I think they're awesome. To be honest, you know, like I do understand the arguments about, you know, profits for artists and all this stuff. A lot of that stuff makes sense. I'm personally not that versed into the subject in order to have like a really formed point of view about that. But other than so it's something that I should explore. But aside from that, I think the streaming services are awesome. You know, because for me, like my number one thing is, you know, I consider myself a music fan before being a musician or an artist or anything like that. And so, like, you know, if I can satisfy my music fanship with a wealth of music from a streaming service, then I'm happy. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I guess before like wrapping up the interview, I had some questions that I gathered from I don't know if you're aware, but there's like a Sweet Trip like Discord. It's like a group chat full of like Sweet Trip enthusiasts, and a couple of people wanted to have the chance to ask some questions. So the user kept wanted to ask, are there any non-musical influences that affected either you personally or your music, such as movies or books? I guess this was kind of answered earlier, but how about like you, Robbie? Is there any like movies or books or like non-musical things that affected you?
It's hard for me to come up with an answer to that because I have been asked that before, and I know that there are things that have influenced me, but I've always have a hard time thinking of them. I think, yeah, no, that's true. Like when
I reminded Robbie that he was influenced by the TV and flipping channels and commercials. Just random.
Oh yeah, that played into like VDC, right? Like velocity, design, and comfort.
Yeah. Even the title.
Yeah.
Album.
Yeah, I've always liked flipping through radio channels or TV stations like rapidly, and then I was just like focused on the screen, or just like with my ears, just focused on the sound and focused on all this like chopped up little stations that I
Yeah.
was just like scrolling through, and that was really influential, and I think it's still influential, because I think that I still like things that are all that are like really jagged and obtuse like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, as far as like thinking about it a little more, there's a movie that I watched when I was a teen, mid-teens, I think maybe. It's called All the Mornings of the World. It's a French movie. I believe that French actor Gerard Depardieu is in it, and it's this movie about it's like set in like the 1700s or 1800s or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little earlier than that. It's about a guy who is trying to seduce a woman so that he can get close to her dad to teach him how to play the viola, or I think it's the violin. I think. But that movie made a huge impact on me, because that movie is like grim. It's just like really dark.
Mm-hmm.
There is no happy ending to it. It is just the scenery. The scenery is just lush and beautiful, but also like really dark and gray. And that that movie always made an impact on me, because I do like moody sounding music,
Yeah.
and the soundtrack itself was beautiful, the imagery was beautiful, and that has stuck with me for some time.
Awesome. That's great to hear. What was the title of the movie again?
All the Mornings of the World.
Okay. I'll look into it. Sounds interesting. Another question that Franco wanted to ask, are there any specific bass influences in your music? They also wanted me to mention that the bass on You'll Never Know Why is really good, which I agree.
Oh, thank you. I think for as far as bass is concerned, I think metal. There's a few metal bass players that I really love. There's Steve Harris from Iron Maiden,
Uh-huh.
Cliff Burton from
Oh,
Metallica,
yeah, definitely.
And Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. So those are huge influences. And I also I think that another influence would be like a lot of like reggae and dub bass lines.
Mm-hmm.
I fortunately don't have names of basses for that kind of genre, but I
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I grew up, I was just like bombarded by like Caribbean and Latin music. And so
Uh-huh.
like I heard a lot of dub bass lines and reggae bass lines, and I think that kind of shows in what we do a little
Yeah,
bit.
of course. Another question, B asks, will you be releasing the KKMJ song from Alpes to Spotify by any chance?
Huh. We'll see. We'll have to talk about it.
Okay, cool. Another question, Elefante12 asks, are there any new sounds or instruments that you're interested in experimenting with in the future? Like besides like this new record?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the medieval music, yeah, like I just kind of been really interested in the instruments that were used around that time, like a lute or something. Yeah, because like it's very fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I really liked how Dead Can Dance did their own medieval record. I think it was called Aeon or something. So like, I just really like the sound of all those medieval instruments. So yeah, that would for me, it would be like, oh, that would be so fun and interesting to try to use that sound and yet make it your own and not really have a medieval songs, but just how that would play into.
Yeah, that'd definitely be really interesting to experiment with and to hear.
Yeah.
Do you kind of share that sentiment as well, Robbie, or is there any different like opinions?
No, I actually didn't know how to answer that question, but I think that Valerie's answer has blown my mind. So.
Like the harp too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot can be done with that. Yeah, especially if you're looking to like change stuff up. I think it'd be interesting. Another question someone by the name of Halica asks, what equipment was used to make Halica?
That's a like I don't know, flesh and bone, I guess. No, I'm just kidding.
Actual guitars and 4-track recorder. Really doing yeah, everything was recorded like with a 4-track, so we didn't use a computer or anything. So I had to redo, like you had to really redo your parts. If you mess up, you're damn it.
Yep.
This is the 20th time I'm doing it. Kind of thing. It's not like click mouse, click button things. So yeah, we had instruments, guitars,
drum machines.
Yeah,
that was really it. It was just our guitars, the bass guitar. I think there was like a drum machine or two, the 4-track, and a Juno 6, and a bunch of effect pedals. Later on, like after we got signed with Darla, we got a little bit of a tiny little bit of an advance. so we bought a digital. We got a mixer, and we bought a digital recorder, and so like for some of the 4-track songs that we wanted to enhance a little bit, we bounced them to the digital tape.
Oh, really?
And we added a few things here and there, but I will say that 85% of Halica is all 4-track. It's like straight up analog.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Is there anything that like maybe you prefer in like creating music with analog that isn't like available digitally?
I'm not really. The only thing that I can think of is it's how when you do a filter sweep on an analog synthesizer, that sounds, like a digital synthesizer or a plugin that emulates analog doesn't really capture that filter sweep, like super high pitchy filter sweep, as well as the real thing. Other than that, I am really like not anal about analog versus digital, because in the end, it's not the tool, but the process and
of course,
the time, the love, and the investment that you put into it. So any tool can do it. Any tool, you can use any tool to make music, and that's really what matters.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Yeah, that's really inspiring. Next question. So Domesum asks, will there be any more Sweet Trip reissues?
We hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, I think they specifically wanted to ask about Halica, so hopefully that can happen if it's able to happen.
Yeah,
but they
with the demand, and then like for BDC, we didn't even expect it to get reissued, but the demand was there, and there was supposed to be a petition going around. People like, I guess it's true, there really was.
Yeah.
So that urged our label to, or compelled them to reissue, and then things took off from there.
You haven't seen the petition?
No.
Really?
But yeah, they show maybe if people petition Halica too, then people
I'm sure a good amount of people would be interested. Yeah.
Okay.
We would love for that to happen.
Yeah.
Something else that Dome Sim wanted to ask. They had a really burning question. They really wanted to know your favorite animals for some reason.
Burning.
Favorite animal?
I like tigers because they're beautiful and you know I was I do this thing whenever I respond to people on Instagram or I don't know why I do that, but every single one of these, most of them, I go get them, tiger. Yeah, I just how I do it, I guess, because I've always liked tigers.
Awesome.
I like the octopus, because it's really flexible and otherworldly.
Yeah, for sure.
I love how they change shape and they're really smart, and they're just awesome animals.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on both tigers and octopuses. So I think that's all of the questions that I had ready for this interview. So I just want to give you guys a big thanks for making this after so long of talking, and it was really a pleasure to be able to talk to you for once.
It was a pleasure too. You said to call you Gibby?
Yeah, Gibby. I go by Gibby. Yeah, I go by a lot of names, but mostly Gibby. Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun, Gibby.